back. I'm Christine Zeitler with the Olean Public Library, and today we're going to learn how to finger knit. So let's get started. Welcome back. Today we're going to be using our fingers and some yarn to do some knitting. And with this kind of knitting, you can make it into anything that you want it to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by getting the fuzz off the yarn, and we're going to make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, all you have to do is you take the short end, the tail of the yarn, and you place it crossing over the main portion of your yarn, and then you take the main portion of your yarn and you put a loop of that inside the circle that you made. Holding the tail, you pull the loop inside the loop, and it makes a slip knot. We'll go through that one more time. You take the tail of your yarn, you loop it over the main portion, you put a loop of the main portion in through the first loop that you made, and then you pull that through the first loop. And this makes a slip knot. It's called a slip knot because it slips up and down the main portion of your yarn. As I pull, I can get it to slip forward and backward to make the loop bigger and smaller. So this is what we're going to do to start. You're going to take it and you're going to put it over one of your fingers, your forefinger. I'm using my non-dominant hand so that my hand that has the more dexterity is able to do the manipulation of the yarn. So this is acting like a loom. If you have a knitting loom at home, this is the same concept basically. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to tuck this around my thumb. If I was able to tuck my thumb in, I would tuck it under my thumb, but I can't do that right now. And then I'm going to take the main portion of the yarn. You never cut away from you don't need to cut the yarn from the ball because you want it to be as long as possible, so you don't want to shorten your ball. And I'm going to take the working yarn, which is what we're going to call this, and I'm going to go behind the second finger, in front of the third finger, behind the fourth finger. And then I'm going to wrap around the pinky finger, which is the fourth finger in this case, wrap it around so that it's in the front as well. Take the yarn, put it behind the third finger, in front of the second finger. And that way, this is the only fiddly bit, so that I've got circles of yarn on each of my fingers. Then I take the working yarn, I wrap it around my forefinger. So you can see I wrapped it around my forefinger, and I'm just going to lay it across all of my fingers. From here, all you have to do is take each of these loops that are down by the base of your fingers and pull them over the yarn that I just laid down. I'm going to start with the pinky finger because I kind of think that it anchors things down, but it doesn't matter which direction you go. So I'm going to take this loop that's on the bottom, I'm going to put it over the other yarn, leaving this yarn on my finger, the one that I just laid over, and putting the loop to the back so that it falls off of my finger. I'm going to do that with each of the four that I have here. Since I'm not going to do a lot of messing around with my wrist, I'm going to bend my finger so that I can get this loop, and that also holds this yarn that's across in place. And then with the second finger, the same thing. The other yarn goes to the back, and this yarn stays where it is. And with this one, we're going to do the same thing. And then I'll just take this tail and throw it to the back of what I'm doing. So now, again, I have 4 loops. They're the thread that I laid across has now become loops. And the working yarn is on the pinky side of things. So I'm going to lay it over so that it's coming across my forefinger. And this time, since the loose part is on the forefinger, I'm going to start with my forefinger and draw the loop up and over. So the purple one in this case is going to go over the green one. And keep doing that. And this was green because it was the end of the color change. So the loop that was on the bottom goes over top of the loop that was laid over. And you just keep doing that going back and forth, laying the yarn over, taking the loops that are on the bottom and putting them over the new yarn. And you keep doing that until your piece, which is going to be on the back, is as long as you want it to be. Right now it isn't very long. It takes a little while of doing this. Let's see if I can do a few more to get it to a size where you can recognize what it is. And you just keep going back and forth. It takes some time, but it's a lot of fun. Okay, so once you've got a few rows in, you can see you've got some knitting started. So each one of those little V's is a knit stitch. And you can keep going. When you're done, you will cut this tail, cut your working yarn, and thread it through each of these loops and cinch it tight. You can then knot it, and that will end your piece. If you decide you don't like how it's turning out and you want to try something different, you can just take the yarn off, and like any other kind of knitting, you can just pull it out and the stitches will come undone until you get it the way you want it to look. After a while, you'll get a longer piece like this one, and you can see there's 3 spaces in between your fingers. So you're basically creating 3 rows of knitting. You can see with the V's, there's 1 set of V's, a set in the middle, and a set over there. So you've got 3 rows of knitting. Now, you can spread this out and make it into a snake. You can make it into a necklace. You can make it into a bracelet. Anything that your heart desires or that you can imagine, you can do with these pieces of knitting. If you want some more ideas, Olean Public Library through Overdrive owns a book on finger knitting by Vicki Howell, and that'll give you some more ideas of what you can do. So have fun, go forth and knit. And if you're an introvert, please check on your extroverts.